The party is insisting that there are no cracks in party, despite open admissions from various high-ranking members that the party is on the rocks. Speaking at a press conference today, Jubilee Secretary General Raphael Tuju dismissed reports that the party had called a parliamentary group meeting tomorrow to settle infighting that has become apparent among party members. Tuju said that the differences in opinion witnessed in the party are normal for a party with over 220 members of parliament in the National Assembly. Nonetheless, we can authoritatively report that the cracks in Jubilee are not imaginary, but real concerns that some members want addressed pronto. Here's Raphael Tuju making an assurance of unity in the party. Let's listen into what he had to say.
I would like to assure members of the Jubilee family that there is nothing even remotely close to a crisis in the party.
Well, tonight on the show, I shall be speaking to two Jubilee members, Soy Member of Parliament Caleb Kositani and Murang'a Senator Irungu Kang'ata, who also doubles up as the Senate Deputy Chief Whip. I'm also going to link up with a lead reporter, Sophia Onuna, who is on standby with the Jubilee Party's Vice Chair, David Murathe. I don't know if Sophia is ready to link up with me. Well, as we continue looking for Sophia there, I'm going to link up with her shortly. Of course, she is on standby with a senior member of the Jubilee Party, actually the Jubilee Party's Vice Chair, that is David Murathe. Now, once again, in studio, I have two members of Parliament. That is Irungu Kang'ata, who is joining me all the way from a city centre studio. Is the Senator Murang'a, also doubles up as the Senate Deputy Chief Whip. In studio, I have Caleb Kositani, who is a Member of Parliament. Soy, good evening, gentlemen, and welcome to the programme. So, Honourable Kositani, let me begin with you. We're going to hear remarks by your party's Vice Chair, David Murathe, shortly. Of course, he's with Sophia Onuna. But let me begin with this. We've seen that press conference by your Secretary General, Raphael Tuju, saying that Jubilee will not hold a parliamentary group meeting. And he's saying that there's no crisis to warrant this. And a few days before that, we've seen a section of actually Rift Valley members of Parliament. I saw you standing next to Honourable Murkomen. And members of Parliament, they are dismissed claims of disunity. What's going on within Jubilee? Let me begin from there.
Well, one thing that I am so sure of is that we in Jubilee had not called for any parliamentary group meeting. That was a meeting that the media, we learned from the media that there was going to be a meeting. We have our own machinery within the Jubilee Party. We have our structures on how to call a PG meeting, and that structure had not been activated. So we assumed that there was no such meeting that was going to happen. And I support the Secretary General. And for your information, I'm the Deputy Secretary General. I deputize Tuju in Jubilee, so I'm the Deputy Secretary General. That was just a fallacy. Nothing of that was to happen. We are solid and intact in Jubilee Party. The issues that we have in Jubilee are normal issues with a big party that is represented countrywide and is running the country. Definitely, there's going to be differences of opinion. Somebody would rather have things done this other way, another one would rather have them done the other way. But generally, that is not a rift within the party. We are solid. We are behind the agenda of the president, and we are solidly behind the leadership of the president and his deputy.
We're going to talk about shortly about that meeting the Rift Valley members of Parliament had at Western Hotel. But let me bring in Murang'a Senator, that is Irungu Kang'ata. And Mheshimiwa, if you could hear me, can you perhaps react to the same question that I'd posed to Mheshimiwa Kositani earlier? What's going on within Jubilee?
No, there is no rift. This idea of having a meeting tomorrow is a figment of some people's imagination. As the Deputy Chief Whip of Jubilee Party in the Senate, I was not informed, neither did my boss, that's Senator Keheka for Nakuru, who happens to be the Chief Whip. And we are the people who have the obligation to text members, to mobilize members to attend any meetings in the State House. We were not informed of such a meeting. So I have no doubt in my mind that is a creation of the media. There was no meeting that was scheduled to happen tomorrow. And therefore, there's no meeting that was cancelled per se. There being no communications officially through members of Parliament, through the whip office, or even the office of the leader of the majority. So therefore, I can attest to the fact that we do not have any split within Jubilee at all.
And at this point, let me bring in our lead reporter, Sophia Onuna. I understand she's now available and she's on standby with Jubilee Party's Vice Chair, David Murathe. Sophia, good evening. And it seems there is something happening within Jubilee Party, but no one wants to admit there is actually, things that are going on within that party. Can you perhaps tell us what more do you have for us, first of all?
Good evening, Yusuf. The line is not too clear, but quite a lot of discussions and sentiments we've heard around the Jubilee Party, the President's Party, the party that is in government now, whilst today we heard from the Secretary General saying there is no crisis and talk of a parliamentary group meeting this week is not one that they've considered because, as again he mentioned, there's no crisis, these are teething problems, it's a 2-year-old party and there would be once in a while disagreements here and there, but nothing to worry about. However, the country now will remember the leader of majority in the Senate, Kipchumba Murkomen, those claims he made around men and people around the president who are sowing seeds of discord and who are trying to interfere with that relationship, I beg your pardon, between the president and his deputy. And of course, we've been playing those clips of how, the president has referred to him as Huyu Kijana wa Kutangatanga, and it's caused concern because that what has been described as bromance we saw in the first term is not much of what we're seeing play out now. But let's now speak to a man who is more vast with what is going on in the Jubilee Party, and in an article in one of the dailies today was mentioned as part of the people that perhaps could shed more light in this. The Vice Chair of the Jubilee Party, David Murathe, thank you so much for making time for us. Clearly, all is not well in the Jubilee Party, despite that statement earlier by Mr. Tuju, the Secretary General, that all is well. We are seeing members of the party coming out to say that it is not well.
That is not correct. You have differences of opinion. And like the Deputy Secretary General has said, we are a huge family. In any huge, large family, you're bound to have disagreements here and there. You'd be surprised that some of the voices which are supposed to be discordant are actually from Mount Kenya. We are having issue with some of our own members of parliament from Mount Kenya. We are having issues with some of the members from the DP's backyard. We have people from the DP's backyard.
What issues?
Like, for example, when the president pronounces himself on something, like let's do less politicking and let us focus more on development. If, for example, they are going around development issues and they address the development issue of the area which they have attended, nobody has an issue with that. But if you go into an area and you're only about 2022, I think that is what is really upsetting some of us, because it will distract the president from achieving his 4 pillars, which he has promised Kenyans. Our manifesto pledges have to be fulfilled within the 4 years. We don't have all that time to start politicking barely 6 months after the repeat election of October.
Yeah. So when you talk about this, members and MPs from Central, we've seen the likes of Moses Kuria saying he's behind Ruto to the very end. We've seen Chungwa saying that he's supporting Ruto, and those who are bringing all these accusations around him are the ones who try to fix him, quote-unquote, ICC. But they say these things in front of the Deputy President. Clearly, it has become a way of speaking and communicating through proxy, so that he sits back and they speak. So in essence, the Deputy President is not adhering to the message that the President has made clear that stop talking 2022. So shouldn't the Deputy President directly be called to order, in your view?
The President has pronounced himself on his support for the Deputy President.
Has he?
Not once, not twice. He has said he will support the Deputy President in 2022. You don't expect that he will be waking up every morning to pledge loyalty to the 2022 pledge to the Deputy President. And having said that, we think that by their own admission, by them trying to suggest that there are cracks in Jubilee, that there are people in Jubilee who do not support the deputy president. That for me is the real problem, because we are all one family. We have a plan, we have a program for 2022. We have a president who goes 10 years. The deputy president is a deputy party leader who naturally should take over. I don't know where that talk came from. I don't know where they got it from.
So you are convinced then Mount Kenya, as has been the talk, owes the deputy president. And the deputy president and those in his camp argue that this handshake perhaps has more than meets the eye.
They are the ones who are casting aspersions. They're the ones who are casting doubts on our commitment to support the deputy president in 2022. They'd better go out there in the public and tell them why they are having this conversation now. In any case, who is he competing against right now? We don't even know who the other parties will be running, and Kenyans will be free to choose. We have to sell our candidate. Other people will come out and run in 2022. When they go around the country, what they are calling kutangatanga, who are they racing against? Who else has started talking 22? Raila is not talking 22. Musalia is not talking 22. Wetangula, Kalonzo, nobody else is talking 22. And you wonder, what's the panic? I mean...
So shouldn't you as a party take disciplinary measures against members who, once the party leader has said stop politicking, they still are doing it?
There's a lot of democracy and freedom in Jubilee. The Secretary General has given the party position as far as these matters are concerned. I can tell you, for example, there is absolutely no crisis in Jubilee at the moment. Somebody somewhere is trying to manufacture a situation, a crisis, to the extent of trying to suggest that there would be a special PG call because of some urgency of sorts or not. And you, the media particularly, are so gullible because we have processes and procedures that call PGs. Members are invited to PGs, time and place, and not a single MP could demonstrate to the media a single SMS or a message asking them to attend to a PG. So where did you get that from?
Did the president meet the deputy president on Friday, a lengthy meeting on these issues?
The president meets the deputy president every day in the course of
on these issues.
I don't know what they discussed. The media reported that there was a meeting between the two of them. If there was a meeting between the two of them, surely only the two of them know what they discussed. I am not privy to what they discussed. I was not there. Nobody was there. So unless the deputy president has told some of his supporters what they discussed, he hasn't told me. The president certainly has not told us.
Mr. Murkomen, the leader majority in the Senate, says the lifestyle audit is targeted at the deputy president.
Lifestyle audit was a pronouncement by the president in the presence of the deputy president. The deputy president is on record himself saying he supports the lifestyle audit. I don't think Murkomen understands where we're going with this thing. The fight against corruption. And I've said it before on KTN. Law and order, discipline, and the fight against corruption and uniting this country are going to be part of the legacy of this president. And he's determined. And no amount of noise from any quarter is going to deter him or stop him or derail him. And watch this space.
One would imagine the AU summit that the president did not attend, he would have sent his deputy as a principal assistant to represent him. He did not. They're both in the country. He sent the CS. And some say these are some of those signs, including the language the president has been using to refer to the deputy president, that show the Jubilee House is troubled.
The Jubilee House is not troubled.
Why didn't he send the DP, in your view?
Because the president decides who to send where. Last time we know...
It's a heads of state summit. It's a heads of state summit.
Raila to represent the country in South Africa in Winnie Mandela's funeral.
And did not send the DP.
In his own wisdom, he decides and determines who is best suited to represent the country at whatever forum.
Question. So in a heads of state meeting, why not send his deputy, its head, its presidents, and you send a minister, not to take away from her capacity, but the deputy president, isn't he well able to represent him in that kind of a meeting?
She's the Minister for Foreign Affairs.
She's not the president, she's not the deputy president.
I have said to you, Sophia, it is the prerogative of the president to decide who to represent this country at whatever forum. Okay. Right now, Raila is in India. He's probably got a message of goodwill. He's probably a roving envoy for the president. He has delivered messages to Salva Kiir. He has brokered with Riek Machar. We can see signs of peace. I mean, people have different roles that they fit in this government.
Okay. Final question. Because of these voices that are coming out, you hear the likes of Murkomen, Ishungwa talking about people trying to fix the deputy president. Do you then now not think it is necessary and important to have a Jubilee PG at this point?
The president has said there will be a retreat. Housekeeping. The Secretary General quoted the sections of the law in our party constitution that say parliamentary groups should be held at least 2 times a year. But they should be held as and when necessary, as and when convened, as and when called by the party leadership, the president, and who is the party leader. And until such time that there is a burning issue that will demand that he calls a PG, no PG will happen, and there's no need for one. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The Vice Chair of the Jubilee Party, David Murathe, speaking with us tonight here on The Big Story, Yusuf.
Interesting conversation there. Many thanks, Sophia, for that. So even as the party denies that there are divisions within, of course, Jubilee, let's listen into some of the sound bites that we've prepared for you here from members or what could be described as a political bloc for the Deputy President who have started already pulling in different directions. Let's listen to those sound bites that we've prepared for you.
I say that there were a few elements who wanted to put problems in Jubilee. And not people who are even within Jubilee political parties. Neither did I say they are members of parliament. I have a problem with is people, including some of them whom you might be knowing, who want to put roadblocks on our unity. And this is not the first time they started. They've been doing that for a long period of time.
Matamshi kama ya Murkomen iko na nia ya kutenganisha Jubilee. Kuja katika vyombo vya habari hame mikutano ya hadhara na kumwaga mtama mahali kuna kuku wengi.
I don't think there's a problem at all.
If there is no problem, then Murkomen is creating the problem.
Yeah.
Why would he create a problem?
Why would he say that people around the president are the ones that are scheming to block the DP?
Well, those are just some of the back and forth that we have witnessed within the Jubilee Party, the party that sponsored, of course, the president to the helm of this country. In the studio, still have Honorable Irungu Kang'ata and Caleb Okositani. And Honorable Okositani, let me begin with you once again. The deputy chair of Jubilee has just said that there are certain members of parliament, especially within Rift Valley, who are casting aspersions, and they're in some sort of a panic mode ahead of 2022. What do you have to say about that?
Well, Yusuf, I think in discharging our duties, as I said earlier, Jubilee is a large family. And you can tell that because we have a majority in Parliament and both in Senate, and even in the Council of Governors, we have the majority. We are a large family. In discharging our duties individually and collectively, you encounter different opinions, you encounter different scenarios, you may encounter roadblocks. So maybe Honorable Murkomen had encountered some roadblocks or encountered a scene whereby he didn't like the way he was treated or he didn't like the way things were unfolding, and he had to open up. Personally, I have not encountered any such thing, so I don't see where when I say there's no problem, I speak from my position, and I say I see no problem at all. But in discharging his functions, and also Honorable Kutuny had a different opinion, and he also expressed it. And that is how democracy is supposed to work. Whatever you feel, you need to open up, and whatever opinion you have given, if I have a different opinion, I will open up also, and then we end up having an amicable solution, and we move forward as a party.
Are there members within Rift Valley who are in a panic mode ahead of 2022, as alluded, as mentioned by your party vice chair?
No, we're not on. Well, at least I'm not on panic mode, and I don't know of any member who is on a panic mode. We know, as a vice chair has clearly stated, that the president gave his word. He would go for 10 years, then he would support his deputy for 10 years. And that is where we stand. The president has not changed his mind, not that he hasn't told us of any other scenario. That is where we stand as members of the Rift Valley. We know he supports the deputy president, and we're moving forward on that.
Honorable Kang'ata, let me bring you into this conversation. You've had the deputy chair there of your party saying that the party has some issues with a section of Mount Kenya politicians. What is the bone of contention there?
Well, I do not know what contention was referring to, because what many of us in the central region, we are just campaigning for deputy president pursuant to instructions that were given by Uhuru Kenyatta when he was vying in 2013 and also in 2017. So therefore, anyone campaigning or talking positive things about William Ruto is merely pushing the agenda of the Jubilee party. Yes, it is true. We are not supposed to really focus on campaigning as of now. We need to focus on the so-called Agenda 4, which is also a party position. But that does not mean we are somehow thwarted, that we cannot even express our personal opinion publicly. I think that ought to continue, because this is a democracy. But from where I sit, I am not aware of any politician from our region who is doing anything that is contrary to the party position. Be that as it may, I know in every party we have what we call ethnic chauvinists. We have in every party what we call ethnic nationalists. We have ethnic people who are exclusionary in their viewpoint, who may want certain hegemony to be maintained. And I think I also foresee a situation where some people may want to perpetuate a certain supremacy, I would imagine, which in my own opinion is not good for this country. We want to ensure this country is held together. And we believe those of us who come from our region,
clearly there are divergent opinions. There are different opinions there. So how is Jubilee planning to tackle this and, make sure that it doesn't come out in public and perhaps create this kind of atmosphere where people believe that there are actually cracks within your party?
Well, personally, I foresee a situation where we shall have a parliamentary group. We sit down, we discuss, and we iron out those issues. If there are people who don't support our agenda in 2022, I imagine they'll be kicked out, because every person who is in Jubilee Party must believe in the sustenance of Jubilee Party post-2022. And therefore, I would imagine once we meet, we ought to identify anyone who is trying to vitiate the agenda and the vision of the Jubilee Party.
This is interesting. Honorable Kostari, let me bring you back into this conversation. And your Secretary General is on record today having said that there is no any kind of parliamentary group meeting that is going to happen anytime soon. He has, dismissed claims that there is any kind of crisis within Jubilee. I mean, and we've seen, divergent views coming out of Jubilee as a political party. How best will Jubilee counter this, now that, the PG is not going to be there anymore?
Well, we will not have a PG, and we were not planning to have one. As I said earlier, we don't know where the media picks that from. We have our structures, and what we know is going to happen now is we are planning for a retreat as a political party, and that was mentioned at the last PG we had. The president said we shall go for a retreat, 4-day, 5-day retreat, whereby we'll all sit as Jubilee and discuss the 4 agendas and the way forward for our political party and how to deliver on the promises that we gave when we were on the campaign trail.
But so, your colleague right now in Jubilee Party has mentioned the fact that, a PG is important at this point, to make sure that, your political party irons out some of the issues.
Yes, a PG is
very glaring, by the way.
Yes, Yusuf, a PG is very important, but the PG, as you were told earlier by the Deputy Vice Chairman, is that we have structures. Our constitution, our party constitution allows us to have at least minimum of 2 PGs per year, and we can have as many as necessary, depending on the necessity.
So
but I think the big focus now is on the retreat.
Necessary, right?
Right now, we feel it is necessary, but if the retreat comes in before the PG, so be it. But if we have a PG before the retreat, so be it. But give us time, give us the space. We shall handle this issue. There's no crisis.
Now, during an interview with Sophia Onuno on Checkpoint last night, former Kiambu Governor William Kabogo admitted there were deep-seated issues in Jubilee despite the denial. Let's listen to what he had to say last night.
Every time leaders, we want to confuse Kenyans. Why would we say there is no problem? Murkomen has shouted, there is a problem. And I'm sure that is why they are being called. I would do the same. If I was leading a party like Jubilee, and these issues are happening everywhere in media, there are talks of, you know, partying, the president cracks in between. I've seen it on newspapers. Really, if I was the leader of the party, I would call a PT. I would call and read the riot act to these fellows who are making noise, left, right, and center.
Honorable Kang'ata, can you perhaps tell us what is the source of these divergent views within Jubilee Party? Is it the handshake? Is it the lifestyle audit? Because it seems there's more and more members of parliament within your political party who have different opinions.
One, on the issue of the handshake, everyone embraced the handshake, including the Deputy President of this Republic. And number two, on the issue of the lifestyle audit, again, Deputy President embraced it. He said he has no problem. He is ready to undertake that lifestyle audit. So therefore, I don't understand this idea of having divisions. So long as the President and the Deputy President are singing the same song, there is no division in Jubilee. However, you may find some senators, some members of parliament disagreeing on certain issues, on certain approaches, but to me that does not mean we have a split in our party. Our party is very strong, it is very cohesive, and I can tell you as a matter of fact, take this one to the bank, Jubilee Party cannot split up at all.
Yes, and I think you've been very clear. You've been very clear there. We're going to take a very short break. But before that, let me bring Honorable Kostani to this as I give you a final word before we take a break. Honorable Murkomen, the man you stood next to after that Western meeting, was very clear, saying that the people who are trying to put a roadblock, you know, in front of a Jubilee Party and ahead of 2022. Can you perhaps give us names or individuals who are behind this? Is it the opposition?
Yusuf, I said this earlier that Jubilee is a large family, and in discharging our duties, we meet various challenges. So the challenges Murkomen meets are not the ones I meet when I'm discharging my duties as a Jubilee Member of Parliament. So he didn't give us any names. He only mentioned that, and I will not fault him for mentioning it. It depends on what challenges he met. So the best person to answer that would be Murkomen himself.
And even the deputy chair of Jubilee just a few minutes ago has alluded to the fact that, you know, there are people who are trying to manufacture crisis within Jubilee Party. Quite an interesting time for Jubilee Party. Of course, we're going to take a very short break, but when we come back, we still have a lot more to talk about. Stay with us. We'll be right back.